Hello Flosstube, it's Lori of Mischievous Stitches. I was just here with you yesterday, but today I am here with you as part of the Flosstube Collaboration Designer Series. It's hosted by Cheryl McKinney of Tranquil Stitches. There are 9 other Flosstubers that are part of this, and they will all be linked below in the show notes. What this is here for is for us to, each of us will be showcasing 3 designers that we think need a little more attention. The ones that I chose are all from the past. Unfortunately, I do not have any finishes of any of the designers that I have chosen, and my little research done online has brought up not little to no information about the designers themselves. I will say though, all of the designers that I have chosen are ones that I have found since becoming a Flosstuber. I've been doing Flosstube for about 2 years, and in that time, just like many of you, I have been searching thrift shops or Goodwills for stitching supplies, things that I could share with you guys here, maybe gift it or pass it along if I'm not interested. And in that time, most of the ones that I have found and discovered are from the late 80s, early 90s. So around my high school years or shortly after I graduated high school. So they're not ones that at that time that I was drawn to. All of them are sampler stitchers. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started with the ones that I want to showcase. The first one's going to be the Thebecedarian. The designer for the Thebecedarian is actually a gentleman named, and I hope I do not butcher his name, but his name was Thomas Malinzik. I think he is still alive. He is not designing. I only have 2 of his pieces, and these pieces I actually come across on eBay. This one is the Mary Elizabeth Corbett sampler. I love his use of color, the symmetry, as well as its simplicity. Both of the patterns, I only have 2. The other is the Duck Pond Inn. And I'm sure that all the ones that I'm going to show you today have been on my Flosstube at one point or another. But as I said, since I've been doing this for 2 years, I'm sure I have way more subscribers now than I did when I showed these first. So chances are many of you have not seen these yet. Both of these patterns have handwritten patterns. So they are grid paper that is filled in by hand with the symbols. I really love the use of color in this one. The good thing about Cheryl asking us to do this too is it gave me the opportunity to dig through my stash to see what I'd like to showcase. Right now at this moment, if you asked me what my favorite designers are, there are going to be Lottie Da, #1, Paulette Stewart, Kathy Barrick. They're all sampler stitches as well. These are older, of course, older designers. So I wanted to reach back into my stash and pull out some of those. Now, as far as I know, the ones that I'm showing you are not still, or they're still not designing. They're no longer designing. With the exception of the next one I'm going to show you, which is Sheepish Designs, which also designed under another name, which is Sheepish Antiques. So they have not only original sampler patterns, but also reproduction sampler patterns. And I'm going to show you the ones that I have in no particular order. I will say before I show them, there were a couple, and I think I want to say this one was one, and then Betsy, which is one that's become really popular lately. I've seen several Flosstubers stitching her, but I found both of those listed on Silver Needle. And reading the information listed on the page about the patterns, it seems like there's a possibility that these have been re-released, because Lindy mentions on the web page, Lindy from Silver Needle, mentioned that the Betsy piece she had in the back as an expired, an expired pattern, so you don't want it hanging in your shop if you can't offer it for sale, but yet it's on our website. So I'm hoping I'm making the correct assumption, and they're going to be re-releasing. So let's get started. This one is listed on Lindy's site as well. This is Shady Day. This is the 110th exemplary This is Sheepish Designs. The colors are much brighter. Once again, the symmetry. I really like this. This particular one, let's see if there's a copyright date on there. I don't see it. So I'm going to keep going. This is those blooming flowers. And these are all in 3-ring binders. That's how I keep a lot of my favorite patterns. And so I didn't bother to take them out of the sleeves. This is a Sheepish Antiques, so it is a reproduction sampler. This is Sarah Pope sampler, Sarah E. Pope. I love this one. And that's before I pull fabric and colors and do floss toss. Once again, the symmetry. It's a beautiful piece. This is a Sail Away. And this to me looks like something that could easily be converted into a punch needle piece. This is the one I was speaking of earlier. This is Betsy, and as I said, she can be found on Silver Needle's site. If you just search for Sheepish Designs. Alright, and here's another one. This is a purchase I made after seeing, I searched this down after seeing this on Michelle of the Striped Rose. It is another Sheepish Antiques, and this is Mary Tillinghast. Look at the colors in this one. If I remember correctly, Michelle has a good bit of this one stitched. And Flosstubers, whether it is a designer series or not, are a great resource for learning about designers that you were previously unaware of. That's how I learned about Sheepish Antiques, is from Michelle. And here's going to be the last one that I have from Sheepish Designs. This is the McCarthy sampler. They're gorgeous, right? The last one that I'm going to show you is another one. I got a big batch of thrifted Just Cross Stitch magazines around a year ago. They were $15, I believe, and it was just a box full of past issues. Some of them were missing, so they weren't in sequential order. There were several missing. I put them in order. I pulled out what I didn't already have, and just perusing those, I was turned on to Words of Praise, which led me on a search for Words of Praise patterns, which, of course, if you've ever searched for anything on the internet, you know how it will also show you photos of what you're looking for, and you can click on the photos and go from there. These particular patterns are printed on legal size paper. They are hand-drawn patterns. Once again, like I said before, the actual symbols in the pattern are hand-done, handwritten. The other thing about them is they are in black and white, so they're not like the patterns of today where you can, even if the colors are off, you can get a grasp of what it's going to look like. At the moment, I'm actually stitching one of them, but I'm going to show you what I do have that other than the one that I'm stitching on. So 2 of them are more recent, so they are on cardstock. They do have the color photos, but the first 3 that I have are hand drawn. This is Words of Praise Witness Sampler. It reminds me of the Birds of a Feather sampler, Sally Spencer, in the shape and the border of this one. And so this one's going to be very hard for you to get an idea of what they look like. It's one you may want to just go look and do the Google photos. This is Shirley's sampler. And all of these samplers are religious in nature or spiritual. They will have scripture in them. They will mention God. simple prayers, those type of things. And that's why, being a woman of faith, that's why I am drawn to these pieces. Here's another one. This one is on cardstock, and this is the Trust sampler. This is not normally something that I would be drawn to because I do like symmetry in a piece. I get the symmetry in the border and the centering of the wording. I love the rolling hills, the weeping willow, the pond with the swans. And the third pattern I'm going to show you is Teresa's sampler. Look at that house on the hill. And instead of the hill being rounded, it's staggered and stepped. And like I said, I found these patterns or were turned on to them after taking a look at some of the Just Cross Stitch magazines from the 80s. So last May during Mania, I picked up one of these patterns because I had it already kitted. When I purchased it, it came as a kit. And this is the Praise sampler. And just like I said, it's just printed. It's in black and white. You don't get a good grasp of the colors. I have the colors here. Let me do it this way. So they're muted tones, they're DMCs, and I really like it. They're simple. They keep it simple. They do something well, and when you do something well, if you do it well every time, you don't have to get extravagant with it. They're keeping the colorway simple. And I'm going to show you where I am at on this piece thus far. I do have the full of the top border, so that kind of gives you an idea. I believe this is stitched on 25 count. Yes, 25 count, and I'm stitching it 2 over 2. And like I said, this was a kit, and it was a kit from the 80s. And so she's going to be a long girl, but I'm really happy with what I have so far. So Cheryl, thank you so much for thinking of me and inviting me to join in with these other floss tubers to do this collaboration. There are several that I really admire, that I watch and am enabled by often. I hope those of you that are watching see something that you've not seen before, and you go out and you take a look and look up these designers and their finished patterns or the finished pieces of other stitchers online. Most all of them do float across eBay and Amazon from time to time, so if any one of them catch your eye, just keep a, save a search and take a look, and sooner or later you may come across one. Until I'm with you next time, I hope everyone has a great week. And once again, thanks, Cheryl. Have a great day. Bye.